Hey guys, Prowl1701 here. Today we're going to talk about video games. My question is, has Doctor Who ever done a really good video game? Now, I don't think I've ever played any of the Doctor Who video games. Doctor Who to me does not lend itself well to gaming, which you would think it should, considering Doctor Who can transcend genres and do so many things, but it seems to me that that's just a tough nut to crack. It's really hard to figure out how you make an interesting Doctor Who game. And none of the ones that have ever come out have interested me. I do remember one with Matt Smith. I think it was a side-scroller. Never played it. Didn't seem interesting. You had the one with the cell phone VR, the Edge of Time or Edge of Destruction or Edge of something. Excuse me. With the cell phone and the angels. That one could have been interesting. I think that's maybe be the best one received. And then there was another one with the 13th Doctor, and I think there's a deluxe version of it with her and the 10th Doctor. I don't know. I've never had a Doctor Who game announced that just made me go, ooh, for some reason. I know there's some in first-person mode that look like really good, I think. Maybe the ones we just discussed. But I've never had a Doctor Who video game that's just looked that interesting to me. And I'm curious whether you have. Like, some of you have probably played them. What do you think of them? You know, comment down below and let me know what you think of them. Now, like most Doctor Who fans, I have my ideas. I would love, for somebody to come to me and be like, what would you do if you could make a Doctor Who video game? So, part 2 of the question is, what would you do if you could make a Doctor Who video game? How would you like to see it? Which Doctors would you like to see? For me, I think Doctor Who works as a puzzle game, like solving mysteries and solving puzzles. Kind of, I started thinking about Star Trek, the 25th anniversary computer game and Judgment Rights a little bit. Or there was a Doctor Who comic book series I really liked years ago, back when the 10th Doctor was the Doctor, and it was called The Forgotten. And it was a really nice comic series. It was basically the Doctor ending up on this area, which looks like a museum to him. Like, there's even a spot where he sees all of his previous incarnations' outfits put up on display. And he keeps running into items that remind him of previous events with previous Doctors. And then issues of the comic would take place as flashbacks with the previous Doctors. You know, each one of the first 9 Doctors basically gets a shout out here, whether we have a little mini adventure with them. Each comic is basically 2 of the previous Doctors. And how the events that those past Doctors go through connect with what the 10th Doctor is going through in the present time. It was a really good series, and I would love to see a video game that kind of goes around that idea. In the vein, kind of a game called Eternal Darkness, if you've ever heard of it. It's called Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem. It was a game that came out on the GameCube in 2002, controlled kind of like the old Resident Evil games. And it's a phenomenal game. I love that game. It is one of the reasons I owned a GameCube. And I have a Wii now that's backwards compatible. I love Eternal Darkness. And the way Eternal Darkness worked is you were playing as a character. I can't remember her name. It's Alex or Alexis or something like that. Alex, I think. Let's just call her Alex. And it takes place in the present year of 2000. But she keeps finding these pages of a tome called the Book of Eternal Darkness. And whenever she finds a page, it would flash back to you would play as another character throughout history. I mean, and it jumps all over the place. So as Alex is learning and collecting these pages of this book, you're reliving the pages of the book where you're playing as a Roman centurion, you're playing as a firefighter from like 1990, you're playing as a reporter from World War I. You're playing as an explorer from the 80s. You're playing as a monk during the Spanish Inquisition. So you're playing as all these different characters. And I would love to see a game that does that. You basically take The Forgotten and Eternal Darkness and you merge them together into a video game where you're playing as the current Doctor. Let's say Shooty was Doctor, and he stumbles into something, but he can't quite remember. It looks familiar to him, but he can't quite place it. And it's him discovering items, especially if you stick him like in The Forgotten, in a spot that's almost like a museum to the Doctor and his adventures, and he's having to slowly figure out what's going on. And then each time you find some kind of item that relates to the story, it flashes back to when that incarnation of the Doctor dealt with it. Like, You might find the First Doctor's monocle or something that deals with an adventure the First Doctor was on, which somehow all connects to this story. And then you suddenly start playing as the First Doctor. And you should be able to, I think for the first 2 Doctors, have a filter that lets you play that area in color or black and white, just for the first 2 Doctors. And then, you know, you have as many surviving actors as you can get, or you get, of course, David Bradley, perhaps, to voice the First Doctor. And it's basically, you're solving puzzles as the First Doctor. Now, and of course, you want each segment to feel a little different. Maybe the puzzles change. The Sonic gets more advanced. Of course, the First Doctor wouldn't have the Sonic, but, you know, the 4th Doctor's Sonic and the 10th Doctor's Sonic are going to be different levels. The 10th Doctor will have a more advanced Sonic. And you're having to use your teammates. And in some cases, if you have areas where you have to get a little more physical, you can switch to Steven. I think you should be able to switch to your various companions. Like if you're traveling with Ian and Barbara, you should also be able to switch, kind of like, say, Knights of the Old Republic, when you switch between your 3 characters, because each one has things they're good at. Like Ian, of course, would be the fighter if he actually had to do some duking it out. And Barbara could have some own abilities of her own that maybe the Doctor didn't have. And then, so you're constantly playing through the other 14 Doctors, because the 15th Doctor's stumbling on these things that remind him of this specific moment. And all of the previous 14 chapters, somehow, all of the things they're going through connect to what's happening in the present with the 15th Doctor. I would like to see that. Of course, you get as many of the voice actors as you can, Peter Capaldi, David Tennant, etc., etc. And you could get some nice gameplay out of that. I think you could get several hours of gameplay. I mean, you have 15 Doctors you're working through, and that's if you don't even, you know, you could even throw in the War Doctor and the Fugitive Doctor too somewhere if you really, really wanted. Those could be nice DLC missions. So I would enjoy something like that. That's the Doctor Who video game I want. Kind of a cross between Eternal Darkness and The Forgotten, where you're playing as all the incarnations of the Doctor, as the Doctor's trying to remember. Like maybe somehow his memory doesn't remember everything, and he's finding these shards of his memory so he can remember and put together what's going on, because his memory somehow of these events have been erased. That would be interesting. So I want to know what you think of that idea, and what would you like to see from a Doctor Who video game, and whether or not you like any Doctor Who video games that have come out thus far. Comment down below, and let's talk about it. Don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button as well. I also have a Patreon if you would like to support me on that. There's a link to that down in the description below. I want to give a shout out to Sam Venning and Colin Coney, 2 of my top tier patrons. I appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons and my YouTube members. It's very much appreciated. I also have a P.O. box if there's anything you'd like to send me to look at and review. A link to my Amazon wishlist is down there. A link to my Amazon UK wishlist is also down there as well. Most importantly, thank you for watching.